Roy is choking. After conceding 4 goals in the first 7 games, he conceded 10 in the next 7. So that means Sai Maggio and Sean have caught up, and it's looking like a 3-horse race at the halfway point. Fofana seems to have replaced Osimhen as the starting number 9 for Sean, getting 6 goals in 9 starts so far. Tom and Redrup didn't get a win this round, but Tom in particular drew 3 games and lost 4, but 3 of those 4 losses were due to goals in added time. Let's take a look at the injuries, which will be reset for Roy, of course, and he'll be very pleased with that as Vinicius had the worst injury in the league. Let's jump forward into the next round of games. The gap between the top 3 and the rest has increased. Haaland is still scoring, but Tom is left behind from the next group of teams. Mike has the ultimate balanced team, an equal amount of wins, draws and losses, as well as an equal amount of goals scored and conceded. Romford has finally recorded some wins, so there is a small chance he may not get first pick in the draft. Taking a closer look at Tom's team, his key players seem to be playing most of the games, so the only difference from last season is the higher quality manager having a negative effect. Still playing the same formation, but obviously the tactical differences are not suiting the team well. Let's take a look at the injuries before we head into the final round, and we have a couple of big ones on the wings. Mbappe, Dembele and Martinelli will definitely be missing the next few games. We've got 3 teams on equal points at the top, so it should be a spicy title race as we go game by game for the final round. And it hasn't started too well for Sean, who let his lead slip to Mike with just 10 minutes remaining. Roy got a 91st minute winner away to Tom, while Sai got a comfortable win at home to Dunk. Next round, and Romford are trying their best to throw away the first draft pick, absolutely demolishing Tom FM in the scoreline despite a pretty even XG. But all eyes were on the first game between the top 3. Looks like a pretty even game, but Sean was the more clinical team on the day, so it means Sean is back to the top after Roy was also held to a draw by Mike. Over to the cup, and no major shocks so far. Mike is only 2 points ahead of Dunk in the league, but has 1 foot in the semis after this result. It's all to play for between Billy and Sai Maggio, and it's Billy who sneaked into the semi-final. Haaland padded his goal stats, but otherwise there were no other away goals in the second legs. We'll return back to the cup for the semi-finals later on. There was even more to play for in the Italian derby this round, only 1 point between them and both chasing Sean. Looking at the XG, Sai Maggio will be feeling a bit robbed with this one. Sane is a great backup to have for Mbappe, but the rest of the midfield let him down. Sean got a win against Romford, so he's still ahead of Roy on head-to-head. Billy has jumped up to 4th, but it's very tight in those middle places. Mike will be glad to see Saka topping the assist charts. Sean owes a lot to Ansu Fati, undoubtedly a big factor in his change of fortunes this season. Donnarumma has returned strongly for Roy, preventing 7.2 xG so far. Vinicius is out for the rest of the season with a hernia injury, very unfortunate for Roy. Mbappe still has up to 4 weeks out, so he's unlikely to play either. No injury problems to report for Sean. On to the next round, and it was first versus second. It looks like Sean was the better team, but considering the players missing for Roy, he'll be happy with a draw. So that means Sai Maggio is back in the title race after beating Billy. Tom got a win against Dunk, which Redrup will be happy about, as that secures number 1 pick in the draft for him. Let's switch back to the cup, and top of the league Sean conceded 2 late goals to make it a mountain to climb in the second leg. Saka with 2 assists in that game. All even between Billy and Roy in the other semi-final. It was a high-scoring second leg between Mike and Sean, but the drama was in the other game, as Luke Shaw put it in his own net in the 95th minute. Let's have a look at how that happened. That's rough. The cross was going to no one, but Shaw wasn't to know. Both Roy and Sean have dropped points to teams in the bottom half, So we're back to 3 teams equal at the top. Mike looks to have secured 4th place after beating Billy 2-1. Would you believe it, in the penultimate game of the season, the top 3 all lost? Sean was already 4-0 down before Fofana got sent off. The only positive thing to take from it for Sai is that Mbappe is back, still lacking a bit of match fitness though. Vinicius is also back for Roy, so as we look at the final fixtures, there are no injuries to report for the top 3. Regardless of goal difference, it's in Sean's hands, but let's see if the other guys were able to put the pressure on him. Well, Mike has absolutely crushed Sai Maggio's dreams of silverware. As we said, he had his full strength team out, so he can have no complaints. On to Roy next, and he at least got a point. The defence did their job, but his attackers only managed 1 shot on target in the 90 minutes against Billy. So Roy had to rely on some Haaland magic, as only a win for Tom FN would be enough. Sean hasn't won in 5 games, so anything could happen. But don't worry, Sean, no bottling today. Nagelsmann played this funky formation, which isn't on his list of preferred formations, but it did the job. Looking at his recent matches, he switched to it for the last 3 matches of the season. So this is confirmation of the final table. In the other game, which neither team had anything to play for, Dunk beat Redrup 2-0. Roy will be happy to see Dunk and Redrup in the bottom half of the league, as he extends his lead in the overall points total. Mike had another solid season, getting exactly the same number of points as last season. Looking at the XG table now, and Roy and Sean can't really have any complaints, as Sean was the deserved winner. We called it before, but this is clearly proof about how different Tom's season could have been if some of those draws turned into wins and prevented some of those late goals. He finished 18 points below his expected points. To be fair, even Redrup finished 13 points below his. Mike was the only team to go undefeated in the final round, but my favourite stat is Dunk only failed to score in 2 league games this season. Dunk also went 11 games without a win at one point, and we can see why he faces the most shots per game. Maybe a tactic change is required there. No surprise to see Haaland picked up the golden boot. I said Osimhen needed a better season, and even though he only started 9 games, he did his job for the team when called upon. Along with Ansu Fati and Reece James, Sean's key players stepped up for him this season. He did have to trade away some picks for next season, so let's see if his players can sustain these levels. Moving on to the cup final, and Mike will be disappointed to be going into the second leg behind. Ward-Prowse's goal was a penalty, so Roy only created 0.5 xg outside of that. But all the action happened in the second leg, as I take you through some of the key clips, and this first one was definitely worth a replay, as Kingsley Coman plays a disgusting Rabona cross for Saka to make it all square overall. Now this next goal is a lovely team goal, with all outfielders except Sesko getting a touch of the ball for Mike's team. Great assist from Wirtz to pick out Saka for his second goal of the game. Now just before half-time, Dalot went on the run down the left wing and picked out Sesko, who smashed it home first time. And that's how things ended in the game.
Hold on. I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
I'm sorry, Mike, but your team seems to have adopted your tendency to bottle things. With just over 30 minutes remaining, Jeremy Pino got 1 goal back for Roy to spice things up. Mike held on until the 80th minute, until the high press caught out Mike's defence, but Oscar put it over the bar. With just 5 minutes left, Koundé played a 1-2 with the defender and put it on a plate for Oscar, this time for a sweaty goal. So it goes to penalties again, and it was a bad start for Roy. and no penalties were missed from either team for the next few rounds, so it fell to Emil Smith Rowe to bring it home for Mike. I'm just going to let this play out in silence.
No, 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 no.
Both me and the media prediction had Roy coming fourth, so he should feel very pleased with second place and a cup win. The false nine is working pretty well, and his starting team are all under 30, so they shouldn't fall off for the next few seasons. So let's see what this all means to the overall points total and the budgets each team has to play with. So yeah, Roy is pretty far ahead now. The rest of you suck. Mike is up to max facilities and has an extra first round pick from Sean, so he'll need to make it count to keep closing the gap on the rest. And finally, let's take a look at how some of the young players have done this season. Billy's 20-year-old centre-back Gustavo Quintal is up to 150 CA after starting 47 games for PSV. Thovanen is now up to 161 CA, so Billy has a tricky decision whether to send him on loan again or keep him for the first team. Barbieri didn't get a loan this season and only played a few games for the first team, but still increased by 5. John Gray has already got to 170 out of 171, so thanks to all that game time he got, he's already a star. Jerome Mace got a couple of injuries this season, so didn't play as much as expected. Alex Korn did very well for Burton, but I suspect the level of competition may have prevented him from increasing more. Sana and Bolo got a nice boost, but still only 119 CA. Next we have Samu Pertsa, who turned 20 this season. Don't they grow up fast? He only made 8 starts this season and is currently sitting at 150 CA. He may hit that brick wall I mentioned before if he can't get more game time. One man who hasn't struggled for game time is Robert Aleth, now at a whopping 178 CA, and that's before the Pep CA boost. Even Luis Tavares, who didn't play that many games, has gone up by 9 before Pep's boost. He is driven with 19 determination, so that probably helps. New signing Luis barely played this season, but he's still got a small CA boost before the Pep boost applies. The one youngster Billy kept at the club has actually done much better than I expected, being the favoured backup striker ahead of Vlahovic. Talking of backup strikers, Endrick only got 12 starts and will get his final CA boost from the manager perk this season. San Maggio's best youngster increased by 10 before his manager boost, but he's still way off being first team ready at 103 CA. Oh, before I leave you, let's see who's joining us in the Season 6 draft.